Awesome. Josiah, welcome to Beyond Page One. My name's Mickey. I'm your host today. Page One podcast is all about exploring the deeper meanings behind business, going into, beyond the page, beyond the cover, so to speak. Talking to entrepreneurs, leaders in their community and in their businesses, trying to identify what it is that they've done in order to achieve the success that they have. So today we have Josiah. He is the Chief Operating Officer and President of Public Affairs at Guardian Law in Calgary, Alberta. So welcome, Josiah.
Happy to be here, Mickey. Really excited to answer some questions and tell you a bit about myself.
Awesome. Let's just hop right in then. What drew you to the legal field, and particularly personal injury and general litigation?
So I guess it was like, I've always said that I've had two main interests or vocations, I guess, in my life. And so one of them has been law, just the theory of law and everything that entails. I've just always found that fascinating, how we govern, how we how we resolve disputes, all things like that. Always found that interesting. And then the other part, the other vocation that I have is tech. So in my hobbyist life, which is increasingly difficult to keep up with these days, I've built my own personal PCs. I customize my machine as much as I reasonably feel comfortable with doing. I do a bit of programming on the side, just purely in a hobbyist perspective, not a professional at all.
Yeah.
But it's just something that I've always just found fascinating. I'm like, how does this actually work? How can I leverage this? Is there a better way to do what I'm currently doing? So I've just kind of always had those two vocations. But what has happened, I think, almost kind of naturally in the last several years is that I'm using both of those vocations in my current role more and more, and I'm I'd say possibly even the tech side of things, which has been and just kind of on a hobbyist level is now being demanded, I'd say, more and more in my current role. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm actually going to be going back to school with kind of a computer science degree, just because I thought, you know what, why not?
Very cool. Very cool. Was there like a specific case or person that kind of influenced your path into the legal field? Or was it more like just apply for a job and get it?
Yeah, I think it was just more. I wanted to find a way where I could see how this industry worked, and I figured
And bridge those two.
Yeah, what better way to do that than to just kind of jump in. So I'm not one of those people that had like a set career path and was like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, or oh, I'm going to be a tech person. I just kind of stumbled into it. And some might say, well, okay, that's a bit unwise. I might agree to them with them to an extent. I don't know. I've just found the practice of learning really enjoyable, and I learn something new every single day.
Very cool. So if you can go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice for entering kind of the workforce or this world, what would it be?
I think I would I would have said to myself, maybe try to nail down like 3 or 4 paths that I could take, and then that would make me less scattered. I would say, which I think would have saved me a lot of effort and headache. But at the same time, like, I don't have regrets. I'm happy with how it turned out. Like it's just kind of a happy accident of like, oh, here we are. So I'm really pleased with that. But yeah, I've definitely tried to be less scattered these days, which I think everyone appreciates.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's probably hard because balancing the roles of the COO and President of Public Affairs seems probably pretty demanding, right?
Absolutely, it is. And it's something that, like, if you asked me even two years ago, if you asked me, like, are you capable of doing that, I probably would have said, oh no, not at all. Like, I don't know anything about that. But what I'm learning is that there are lots of things that we don't know how to do, but the only way to do it is because there's not a class you can just take for either of
Yeah.
those roles. You kind of just have to jump in. But I should also say, like, I benefit greatly from guidance from people who know way more than I do.
Yeah.
In no small part due to my boss, Jonathan Dennis, even though he hates that word boss. He not only has had like a long career in the practice of law, but he's also had a very varied and exciting career as a politician in the public sector.
That's
So
very cool.
he has given me a lot of guidance, try to improve my soft skills such as communication, people management, things like that. So all of that, like I chalk up a good portion of what I've learned to him because again there is no class. You either figure it out yourself or you benefit from someone who's been there.
Yeah. I think something that, our listeners and myself appreciate too is the idea of mentorship and how important it is. And I often reflect back to being, this kind of saying where it says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like, with your boss, so to speak, having someone as a mentor like that has been really helpful in your career path as well. Really cool.
Hugely, and he's been nothing but open and approachable of like, like this is typically how we do this, or this is what you can expect in this kind of situation, which is invaluable. Again, there's no training for that. There's no
Yeah.
like if you asked me 3 years ago, does that career path exist? I'd be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, so, but it does exist and it has existed for a while. So I'm lucky that I get to be a part of it.
Yeah. It seems like more and more companies nowadays have people that wear many different hats. So how do you maintain a work-life balance when, having so many things on the go?
Yeah, like work-life balance is a challenge. I think that in my role, so I guess I should say like there's two main hats to the role. There's kind of
Yeah.
like the internal practice, which is my COO role.
Yeah.
I do things like hire and create policy and do some basic bookkeeping and just how the business is actually run. As far as the public affairs side, that is like a client work that I do, and Jonathan does as well, obviously with his guidance. So those are kind of the two main hats that I typically wear. I say that there's probably about 4 or 5 more hats that I also wear. But yeah, as far as work-life balance, I am usually on the go at any given moment.
Yeah.
Like the reality of managing a business is it needs you quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm always checking my phone for emails. I'm always checking texts from people within, and it's something that some might say like, oh well, there's very little work-life balance, but I see it as something that I'm passionate about and that I want to give 150, 160%.
That's awesome.
At any given time. So obviously not everyone within the firm is required to do that. I'm huge especially when it comes to our staff. I'm huge on respecting their work-life balance. I when their time is up, like it's 5:00, yeah, you're free to go. I really try to respect that. So we are a go office. That's kind of the reality of our office.
Mm-hmm.
But we also recognize that people have lives and families, and we need to respect them when they go on lunch and all that. So yeah, I'm probably not the greatest example if I'm being honest.
Fair enough.
But I'm really passionate about respecting the work-life balance of the staff and lawyers.
Cool. That kind of leads actually into my next question. What, especially on the COO side, what personal values or principles guide your approach to leadership?
What principles guide my approach to leadership? I think that a big one is kind of what I just said, which was respecting that people have lives.
Yeah.
Um, like trying to be empathetic, trying to recognize that they have a life when they leave the office, and like they're say like they'll come to me and say like, hey, I have like this dentist appointment, or I have this doctor's appointment, or I have just this vacation that I'm having on the long weekend or whatever. I really try to respect that, because I think it really pays dividends when you try to actively recognize that. And on top of that, it's just a nice thing to do, in my view. So I think empathy is a big one. I also think that the other part of a guiding principle, another guiding principle that I have, is excuse me, I can't even say it correctly, systematization.
Yeah.
So I really try to not do stuff off the cuff. I try to not be random. I try to not be inconsistent. I try to be as consistent and predictable as humanly possible. So like there's a way that I take into account time off. There's a way that I take into that. There's a way that I hire someone. There's a way that I train someone. And so I think since I've started with Guardian, I've really tried to hone in what are the parts of my job that are a bit inconsistent and kind of off the cuff, and really tried to kind of streamline them and make them more consistent. So I think those are the two things. Empathy, you have to be a human being.
Yeah.
Two, you also have to run the business and be as consistent as possible. So again, I can't say it correctly. Empathy and systematization.
Awesome. I like it. How do you identify and implement the innovative solutions, especially to improve, the operation side, but also the client service side?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's we have a wonderful, like, we have wonderful systems that we use, and it is kind of a difficult thing trying to learn how to properly take advantage of it, whether that's managing the client so that they know where, for example, where their file's at, where their lawsuit's at, whatever it happens to be, and keep them up to date. So I'm regularly trying to use the existing systems that we have to make it so that we're delivering the best service that we possibly can. And as far as internally, from a management perspective, I do use, like, for example, I do use a variety of things. For example, Indeed, when hiring new candidates, or LinkedIn's job posting feature, and I'm always on the lookout for better tools that I can leverage, because I think so. Cosmolex, which is our internal accounting and matter management system.
Okay.
I've really tried to take advantage of it the past little while. So it seems to be getting more and more advanced. So I'd say that's one of our big software suites that we use.
Okay. Are there any other technology tools that you found have benefited the firm, or things that you're thinking of implementing? For example, like there's CRM systems, right, that often businesses use, or from the sales side and the management side too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are there tools that lawyers are using internally to manage their time effectively?
Yeah. So the one that I mentioned, Cosmolex, is an example of one of those prescribed systems. In Alberta, we have I don't know exactly. Last I checked, I think there were like 20 or something software suites that you can use for accounting and for practice management. And yeah, like I'm always so like, okay, so as an example, one thing that I'm just implementing now is a an automatic booking system that clients can use to book new appointments. just so that it saves a bit of time on our end of, trying to fit it into a
Yeah.
lawyer's schedule.
Is that for new clients or existing clients that are coming in for a secondary and third meeting and fourth meeting?
I'm mostly gearing it towards new clients because there's a lot of steps that go into getting a new client set up.
Yeah.
Law society requirements are quite intense.
Mm-hmm.
But I do plan on expanding it and using it as much as possible. So that I'm really excited about.
It's really cool. So, I mean, attracting clients in specific niches, requires strategic targeting, right? Can you share any successful marketing or outreach methods that you and your teams have put together to build the book of
Yeah.
business?
Okay. Yeah. So on top of us just properly managing our online presence, I guess, so that would include making sure our website is up to date, which is an ongoing struggle, by the way. Updating our Google Business profile and Apple Business profile,
Awesome.
the latter of which is more difficult, as I've learned.
Yeah.
Uh, as well as good old fashioned show up to events, hand out business cards, and just say, "Hey, come by our office sometime. Come by our office sometime." The that has been surprisingly successful. Like I don't know if that's just a Calgary thing, but it seems to be quite word of mouth seems to be very valued here. Beyond that, we seem to rank fairly high in SEO.
Nice.
Like if you were to search like Calgary employment lawyer or something, we seem to come up pretty quick. And I would say, we've kind of canvassed the feedback from new clients, and the majority of them seem to come from online searches.
And do you have an internal team that works on the kind of the digital marketing, so to speak, or do you outsource that?
We have mostly outsourced that kind of stuff. Like we're not what we're finding is that the like SEO is something that like digital marketing is something that you really have to work at and pour money into. So
Yeah.
you either have to kind of jump in with both feet or not at all.
Yeah.
So it's something we're always considering, but I gotta say, with the amount of calls that we get every single week from new people, I don't hugely see a need for it. Quite the opposite. I feel like I feel like too many people contact us. I'm joking, of course. Please contact us.
Please call us.
But no, we're really happy with how many people have wanted to are interested in our services.
Awesome. Yeah. I find typically, I talk to business owners a lot, and the best type of, lead, so to speak, is a referral. Somebody that you've worked with, that you've done good work for, and they pass along the name. And then after that, it's really, the organic online presence. And so that's awesome that you guys are doing both.
Yeah, exactly. We've had so many times where, we'll take on one file and we're like, this is not the greatest file in the world, but we'll take it on. But then sure enough, it just seems to kind of multiply. Oh yeah, it's great.
Really cool. What are some common misconceptions that you encounter regarding the litigation process, and how do you educate the clients and then manage their expectations?
Yeah, so like while I do not practice law, I have a ton of experience in it, and again benefit from the lawyers in our firm who are very good at client expectations, and so that to me I think is the key. Making it clear to them up front what they're in for. Different practices of law are different, but litigation in particular is famous for being, and rightly so, for being long, expensive, and unpredictable. And so those are the three words that we use in setting expectations with clients. It's going to take a long time, it's going to be expensive, and we don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. We can tell you, we're like I always say, we're not fortune tellers. We never have been fortune tellers. We can tell you what our experience is, but that is not gospel. We still don't know what happens when we show up for the application or trial at court, you still have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think we're good at making that clear. But it does require reminders. Our clients need to be reminded of that throughout the process, because people
Mm-hmm.
get impatient, which is fair, because when they come to us for a litigation problem, it's probably because it's the worst time of their life and they're not thinking clearly, and there's
Yeah.
all these things
Stress.
happening.
Yeah.
They're stressed. So it's I think they appreciate when we're just kind of like excuse me, a grounding force, like, hey, this is reality, this is where we're at, we think this is going to happen, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I think, and that's really what we are, is we're consulting them on legal matters.
Yeah.
So
Just
I
being
think
super transparent, right? Just
100%
look. Yeah.
transparency is so important. We are not fortune tellers. That's the
Well
main line
said.
that I use. Yeah.
No, well said. And I think no case is like another, right? So
No.
it's very cool. Are there different, or building relationships obviously is important. Are there other professional services that you guys jive well with, and that you work together to build the business?
Yeah, I would say realtors, or sorry,
Yeah.
real estate agents, because as I understand, realtor is a copyrighted term. Um, that is a big that is a big thing. We work very closely with them, and not just on our real estate side, but on just anything that they bring to us. It's a really good business relationship to have.
Nice.
So that's a big one. I would also say any of the other professional services. Um, Dentists is a big one. Accountants, that's another big one. Because similarly, we need accountants. We are not accountants. Like, I
Yeah.
am not an accountant. Just to be 100% clear, I manage the business, so there is
Yeah.
some accounting, but I am not an accountant. So we need help in our blind spots, and they need help in their blind spots. So it's really handy to just be like, hey, I don't know about this question. Can you or someone else figure this out? Oh yeah, sure. And then we go find someone. So
Yeah. Yeah.
very old school, very very straightforward.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have a favorite client story? One that you can share?
Yeah, like I'll always have to be very vague,
Yeah.
but uh, above all, like, I just find it really gratifying when a client says to us, like, hey, you guys got me out of a really tough spot, and you guys acted like that for us. You didn't delay. You acted as reasonably quickly as you could. So thank you for that. And there's been lots of people who have said that to us. Um, Obviously can't reveal any names, but that is hugely gratifying, and that's what makes it worth it. As cliche as it sounds, I love that I've made a positive impact on someone's life, that they're like, oh, that wasn't a completely horrible experience. Like, I was handled well. It's just satisfying to me.
100%. It feels like you're really making a difference. And oftentimes, day-to-day work, you don't feel that. So when you can have a conversation with a client, and they tell that to you, it's like, oh, okay, wait, like what I've been doing for months is actually paying dividends, and you're happy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know we had one guy recently where he was grateful to us, and this guy had every right to be upset and pissed off and disappointed, because some other counsel had let him down, and we stepped in. We're like, nope, we're taking this over, and we took it over, and he was over the moon. So
That's awesome. You have experience with government officials. So what are some effective negotiation tactics that you've honed, when dealing with government officials? Because things take time in the government.
yeah, yeah. So I think I have some, because again, every situation is a little bit different, but I think some guiding principles that I have are: one, recognize that a given government employee is not personally invested in you and what you're trying to do, and that they're just trying to get through their day. So be respectful of the fact that they have a huge list of things to go through. So be respectful of their time is I think one of the main things. 2, make sure that your client knows that, so that they again, goes back to what I was saying earlier, have reasonable expectations about what they can reasonably expect. And 3, I would say, like, as far as communication, you should work on explicit communication as much as possible. Like, if you're waiting for something, respectfully ask for like an ETA. Be like, when can we expect this, so that you can properly tell the client, okay, well, they'll probably get back to us in a month. I don't know that for sure, but that they say that they will. Excuse me, something in my throat this morning. So I think those would be the 3 main things.
For legal professionals in smaller firms or startups, what advice would you offer regarding developing and implementing effective SOPs, standard of procedures?
Yeah, and so this is something that I think I'm qualified to speak on, because I've done things the wrong way previously.
Learning from our mistakes.
Exactly. I've learned a ton, again, from people who know more than I do. And so I think a big thing would be openness. I, in particular, am really bad for just kind of getting tunnel vision of like, oh, this is the only way I know how to do this. And then you have someone come along and be like, why don't you just do it this way? And you're like, oh, wow. Like, I can't believe I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
As everyone in the office knows about me. So openness, that's been a huge difference maker, is that you may not know the best way to do something. And, feel free to canvass the opinion of everyone else. Doesn't mean that you have to take what they say necessarily, but you take it into account. It's when you get advice or opinions from everyone else, it's another tool that can sit in your toolbox. You don't necessarily have to use that tool right then and there. But yeah, openness, I think is the main thing. And above all, and again, being consistent about what you're doing is so critical. When I tell someone how to do something, I better be consistent with how I tell someone else how to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I think like staff meetings can really come in handy, because I can speak to everyone at the same time. Now, there have rightly been a lot of criticism in the business world, I think, for useless staff meetings.
Yeah.
But I think that in the right context and for the right thing, there's no better way than me standing in front of 5 or 6 people or something and being like, hey, this is what we have to do. Here's how you do it. It's on a screen. You can all see it. There's nothing that beats that, in my opinion, with when it comes to like training and implementing office procedures.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. I find that, especially in the corporate world or in the office culture, it's that kind of, you have a cubicle and everyone kind of is working away. Something that I've implemented is, Monday stand-up meetings. You come into work, what's everyone working on this week? And then like, if there's anything like high priority that I need to talk about, or anybody else, like the floor is open, and then we go back, right? And it's helpful, from a camaraderie perspective, too, building that team environment, but also for people to feel like they're heard, right?
Yeah.
And that if you do need help, like, don't be afraid to come to somebody else. You don't have to take it on all yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I just love the ability to talk to someone face to face and be like, I don't know what it is. It's just how we're wired as humans.
Yeah.
Like you just have to, it's the best way to communicate your expectations, and it's the best way to communicate exactly what you're talking about. Nothing beats it. But then what I do, again, to be consistent, is once I've taught them in person, I'll then make a policy document and procedure document codifying what I've said, so that anyone can refer back to it, and then that becomes the statute. so to
The
speak,
the holy grail.
yeah, of what they should be doing once they kind of had the in person. Oh, this is what we're trying to do, type understanding.
Very cool. Are there any emerging trends in personal injury litigation that you see kind of impacting the work in the coming years?
Yeah. So the big thing would be the proposed switch to no fault insurance, which is the system that they have in BC.
Okay.
And I really hope that that does not happen. Number one, not only because it's a core practice area, because that would just that for those of you that don't know, the no fault system would effectively switch so that there would be no such thing as making an individualized claim if you were injured. Um, just like with a small whiplash injury, you'd get the same amount as if you got into a car accident and then got a much more serious injury like a concussion or something like that. There would be a set amount that insurance companies would award you. So that I'm not a fan of, not only because it's a core practice area, but two, because it limits the choice that injured people have in getting compensation, which is what we're all about. We when someone comes to us with like a car accident injury, we are there with them for the long haul, whether that's 1 year or 5 years or 10 years or however long it takes. And so which is nice because what I found is that injuries can develop and change over time. And so if you as an insurance company just kind of shove um, $5,000 in an injured party's face, they might be like, well, I only have a bit of soreness here. That's probably fine, without recognizing that injuries can change over time. And then pretty
Yeah.
soon they might be, in 2 years, they might be like, oh, I need surgery and it is not covered by public health care. I'm not sure what to do. So that's the big change that I'm hoping won't come, where we don't want it to come, but
Yeah. And you
several
said,
parties want it to come to Alberta.
and it's like that in British Columbia already.
Yeah.
How long has that been in British Columbia?
I'm not sure, but I would think probably in. Yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I haven't dealt with BC much at all.
Fair enough. Do you see that coming down the pipeline in Alberta?
They've kind of flirted with the idea,
Yeah.
and a lot of the litigators are like, no, this is a bad idea for a number of reasons. So, I wonder if I can pull it up here, called FAIR Alberta, fairab.ca, if people want to learn more about it, because that website can explain better than I possibly could.
Okay. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. I'll take a look at it after.
Yeah. It's a larger conversation, but
Yeah. We'll be here for
exactly.
So I mean, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, so in summary, that's kind of what they've threatened with. That's kind of one of the changes that might be coming down the line, which would hugely impact our business, and hugely impact Albertans who are injured.
Yeah. Is there anything that excites you on the other side of it? Is there something that you see maybe changing towards the better for the clients? Outside of this not happening?
Yeah, exactly. So let me
Keeping it status quo?
Yeah, I'd say just speaking very, very broadly, I think this is an interesting time for Alberta. Both it just feels like we're shifting in a lot of ways, and it's really difficult for me to say I know exactly where it's going to go, but I feel a degree of optimism for one reason or another. That's my extremely broad, unhelpful statement.
Yeah. Well, you're not on top, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Cool. Awesome. That kind of has gone through my questions here. Do you have anything that you want to share? Anything else that comes to mind?
I think just that I'm really excited with this business, and the ability that I've had to make not only our clients' lives easier, but like everyone who works there, myself included, to make their lives easier. And that's kind of my goal as as COO is like, how can I, I've worked in so many offices where I've been like, this is a stupid process. This is really slow and inefficient, and it accomplishes nothing. Now I have the chance to implement something, um, and kind of fix that past experience in my mind that has just kind of been like, why did we do it that way at that other office? Now I can make it mine, and I say not mine as in I'm the only person in
Yeah.
charge here or has an interest in it. Obviously, everyone has an interest in it, but I can be active and proactive in how I make it the best place to work I can possibly make it.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see what the future holds for you, and I'll keep an eye out, keeping in touch, and seeing kind of how things progress over the next few months, over the next few years. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. Well, I'm going to put all your information in the descriptions of the videos. To our listeners out there, if you can please press subscribe. We'd be happy to obviously have you and help us grow this channel and meet with more business leaders in and around Canada.